This is the World Satsanga on the 29th of August 2015. Right, so thank you everybody for dialing in from all over the different parts of the globe. Mostly I am seeing from the west side of the hemisphere, but of course we've got Mo and Jeremy from the New Zealand side as well. Or you could classify it potentially being the far west-west if you went completely around the globe. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is very quickly go through the agenda for today, which is letting the system settle down. It's settled down quite nicely today, so we're okay. Then I'm going to very quickly, got 20 minutes to do this, go over life plans and parallel lives, so we can just understand what our life plans are and how our parallel lives fit into it. We've talked about event space before now, and parallel lives are part of that, but also we've got other things which are part of it as well. Then we've got the question. I've got a question from Mo, which I'll deal with first, and then I've got some really good questions again from Ulla, so we can add those to it. And then we've got meditation, which is based upon the June recording, which is sensing disease within us again. Now the actual process of doing this might vary slightly from what we did in June, but in essence it'll be the same thing. It's the same thing, going up the different frequencies associated with our human form, observing ourselves as if we're observing somebody else, and then finding out where there's the thick energy or low frequency energy associated with disease or dysfunctional thought processes, and then we can clear that out by using this spiritual comb that I use. But we can go just go through that in detail at the end of this Satsanga. Okay, let's just a quick check and see who's here. We've got, okay, I think Chris may be having problems with Wi-Fi. So what we're going to do is go straight into the first part, which is the life plans. Interestingly enough, the life plans side of things, we feel as human beings that we know we have a plan. We know we have to experience certain things when we reincarnate, and we expect to experience those things throughout our incarnation, or we expect to, if we miss some of those parts of the plans, we'd expect to go through them again in the next incarnation. In the book I'm currently, and I think within 5,000 words of completing, which is the Dialogues, there's a big section on life plans, because actually life plans are very, very detailed. It doesn't just involve what we would like to experience in our incarnation. It involves justification of that experience with our true energetic self, or in fact the true energetic self might want to experience certain things, or it might be one of the individualized units of the true energetic self, one of the aspects that are who are individualized and have got, shall I say, the authority to go and create a life plan when justifying it. I think one of you is on audio, so if you can just check your audios are off, your microphones are off, so when you get background noise, it'd be fantastic. Okay, great. The life plan, therefore, can be a choice made by either an individualized aspect of the true energetic self, and that individualization can be external to the true energetic self in this projected state that is there to allow an aspect to have back-to-back lives, so to speak. So it goes into an incarnation, finishes that incarnation, and comes straight back into an incarnation again. And some aspects do that as part of understanding a series of experiences that are associated with being in an environment over a longer period of time, say 10 lives. What then can happen is if the true energetic self decides to have an experience, they can therefore select one of those aspects that may have entered into a state of communion, or in one of the different variations of that communion, to use that aspect because it may have a specialization, or there may be multiple aspects that it could use, or functions of aspects that it uses to create a completely new aspect or soul, to have all of the different attributes associated with experiencing this experience. So the life plan is something that is created either by an individualised aspect or the true energetic self. Now, if it's the individualised aspect, it needs to be justified to the true energetic self as being a reasonable experience to have, and identify how that experience would augment the existing evolutionary content of that true energetic self, and of course the aspect itself, because the aspect accrues the evolutionary content on behalf of the true energetic self. And so it has to be sort of justified from that perspective. And on top of that, there needs to be an understanding of how we would achieve it, where in the physical universe it would go to achieve this, and which particular guide it might use to help it along its way, and the helpers that guide might use as well. Because each of the helpers can be generalised helpers, or they can be specialised in some way. Not all helpers are general. They have a specialisation to do with certain types of experience, and how they may, shall I say, pave the way for a particular aspect to experience that experience with a minimal amount of distraction, so to speak. That being, the distraction being going down an evolutionary dead end. When we have our life plan, we have this almost straight track to go down. But whilst we're incarnate, of course, we're not aware of this life plan per se, and so although we get exposure to various different things that are part of the attraction to the life plan, what we can get is distraction to other parts of our existence that move us away from this life plan. Okay. Very quickly, I've been looking at some of the. I'm just looking at some of the people who've been working here. I think Mirella's just trying to dial in. I'm just going to try and get hold of Mirella very quickly before I move in. Okay. Show all. Okay. Oh, yes, Mirella's in. Good. Okay, fantastic. So the life plan is not just a function of the individual aspect of the true energetic self that's going to experience the life. It's also a function of getting the right team around us. And those, I talked about the specialisms just a moment ago of each of the different helpers, and how they may ensure that we stay on this sort of straight and narrow track. It's important that we do stay on the straight and narrow, because if we get distracted and go down a different track, then it can, although it won't negate the whole life, as it were, it will mean that we don't live that particular life efficiently, and so that we may have to come back in a different life to finish off that experience, or even in some cases, some of the experiences might not have been actioned or experienced. So we have to make sure that the helpers we have are the right sort of helper. They make sure that we're in the right place at the right time. They make sure that the individuals that we work with are there, and that we can benefit from their interfacing with them, whether with a loved one or a colleague or a partner or just somebody we meet in the street. It's to do with everything we do, and along the route of this life plan, it's also to do with how much evolutionary content we're attracting at the same time. And for those other individuals who are also incarnate, how efficient is it for us meeting them from their perspective? How fast can they evolve in terms of their incarnation and the accrual of their own evolutionary content? Let's have a quick look at some of the comments here. I think I've just seen some quickly from Marnie. Marnie just says she's reading The Origin Speaks. Thank you for having your mind blown. When I read it myself now, it's quite fantastic, and the information that's coming out of the latest book is just as interesting. So hopefully I'm going to be finishing that in the next 4 or 5 weeks. So watch this space on that. Chris asks, can we have helpers to help with songs and music? Yes, of course. When you look at people like, she's mentioning Bob Dylan here. the people such as, and I'm going to use J.K. Rowling as an example, she knew she had something to do. She knew that what she was writing down was being given to her, although she hasn't announced it properly. She was doing things which are part of her life plan, and her helpers would have been making sure that the right people were in the right place at the right time, so that when the work that she was doing and the shall we say the exposure through her writing and the fiction she was creating through Harry Potter, etc., was at the right level, then those people would be made available to help broadcast that, and that was the publishing house that finally took hold of her, and the opportunity to do films that came from it as well. So the guardian helpers in the background are working with the life plan and allowing it to become, shall we say, augmented in the way it's supposed to be, to maximise its efficiency, not only for the individual who's experiencing the life plan, but all of those others who are touched by that life plan as well. So Barney's just asking, how detailed are the life plans? Where does free will fit into the plan? Free will, okay, free will starts at the very start. We, as individuals, we have, if we are individual aspects working on a particular life on behalf of our Trinity self, and we've justified it, and the free will is of the aspect, the ability to choose that particular experience from that particular life. Of course, the Trinity itself, if it chooses a particular experience, then the Trinity itself has got free will to do that. But in terms of what we call free will from an incarnate sense, the free will is that the life plan is there. Shall I say that the gut feelings, the intuition, the thought processes, the desires, the needs, the wants, the things that are in the background that make us go in certain directions are there to experience the life plan in its entirety and in its really, shall I say, efficient manner from the start. It's just how we work with that. And so the free will from our perspective is how we work with those gut feelings, how we work with the intuition, how we work with the knowing in the back of our mind we've got to do something important. And so how we address those, shall we say, those subliminal programming or programs that are part of the life plan is part of the free will. So we can experience it. We can experience all this stuff, all of the life plan, in any way we want to. You know, for instance, if part of experiencing a life plan is getting on a train to go from, let's say, Los Angeles to San Francisco, if there's a train, the experience could be, do I have an aisle seat? Do I have a window seat? Do I get on the train on the left-hand side? Do I get on the train on the right-hand side? Which carriage do I get on? Do I go overnight? Do I go in the daytime? It doesn't matter how we do it. It's the free will that's associated with our ability to experience it in the way that we can, based upon the circumstances that are around us. And that's basically the free will, and it's there right from the very, very start. Okay. Ulla's just said this. Is J.K. Rowling from the same true energetic self as Charles Dickens? Some say she's a reincarnation of him. Let me ask. No, she's not a reincarnation of Charles Dickens, and she's not from the same true energetic self, the same Godhead or Oversoul, or higher self. But what she was, as an aspect, as an incarnate aspect, was one of a number of individuals who were able to, or were susceptible to, the ability to have a particular life plan and to run with that life plan. Now, I've just been told, as we're saying this, that there was one or two others who could have written the same material in the same time frame. And I believe that there has already been somebody who said that they wrote the first book or something. I can't remember where I've got that from, but there was somebody who was saying that the content was in their minds or something. Now, whether that's just a load of mumbo jumbo, I don't know. But basically, there's always a number of individuals around the world who are able to bring into into physicality something that's important, and that may well be a concept, it may well be an invention, it may well be a thought process, it may well be a state of beingness, and all these things can come into it as we go through. And again, the guide and helpers that are part of the life plan are there to help us latch on to that particular piece of work if that's part of our life plan. Okay, let's have a look at this. Mose has written, so Jeremy is in Oz at the moment, doing his work, so that's his life plan now, and he's moving in the right direction with his guides helping. Yes, yeah. If he had fought against going to Australia and doing the seminars, okay, then he wouldn't be part of his life plan. When we talk about the certain alternative methods of dentistry and stuff that Jeremy does, and the fact that he wants to move away from the mainstream and show how we can do things from an alternative perspective, that's part of his life plan. When we start to resist the life plan, then things get hard, things get difficult, and the guide and helpers will do things quite dramatically to us to put us back on track, and that sometimes means we have an accident, we lose our jobs, we may lose a partner, we may become financially unstable, we may have an illness, for instance. They can do a lot of things to put us back onto track, to make us think about where we are, what we're doing, what we've done, and what we need to do to move forwards. And so they can do all sorts of things like this. One of my particular memory jolts by my guide and helpers was the need to have a certain level of financial independence, and I thought it needed to be a certain level, and I had a sudden jolt back in, when would it have been, October 2012, that suggested that was being greedy, basically, and that what I got and what was available to me was all that I needed. And that made me suddenly realise that this is the juncture where I would move away from my sort of normal career path and start to work full time on this work that I'm doing right now. And so we do start to get these things coming in and hit us. And the thing is, if we ignore these little prompts, these little pokes, these little niggles, then the guides and helpers can, shall I say, make it harder for us, and they do, so that we can sit up and take notice to what's going on. So Marnie's just asked, how can we train ourselves to listen better to the guides and get more access to our life plan? Stand back and look at what's happening to you. Stand back and see how your journey has gone so far. What's happened to get you where you are? What things have happened that are bizarre that have worked out quite well? What's going on around you? Where have you experienced something and you've refused to experience it, and then it's come back and hit you again harder? Sometimes we have this downward spiral in karma, where if we're supposed to experience something and work with it, and then come out come out the other side with a positive response to it, and then that karmic loop or karmic link is dissolved. And if we don't address it properly, we get the same thing happening to us harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, until we stand back and see the pattern of our life and how we need to move away from that particular pattern, because it becomes harder and harder the more and more we resist. So Lily's saying, how do we know who the helpers are, and do we have a choice to choose those? Yeah, the helpers are in the energetic. The guide and helpers are in the energetic. They are there to help us make sure we're on the right path. We choose the helpers before we come onto this planet, before we start to become incarnate. So we actually choose our guide and helpers. And sometimes the helpers or guides we've used before. Mostly the guide has been used before, because we have quite a long-term relationship with our guide. But the helpers we can mix and match from previous existences and or new existences, and from knowing the particular specialisms of certain helpers as well. So how do we train? So how do we? Why does this lifetime feel like many lives? Okay, different jobs and environments in one. Are they all part of the overall plan? Right. Okay, I think that's... Some of us are experiencing accelerated levels of experience because we are either close to finishing our evolutionary cycle, or should I say, close to finishing this part of the evolutionary cycle, that part being the need to incarnate to accelerate our evolution. Whereas others, let's reread this question again. Whereas others may well be wanting to just experience many things at the same time. Sometimes, some of us are logged into those other parts of us which are experiencing different parallel conditions. And so, for those of us who know we've had lots of experiences, I've been completely diverse experiences on this planet, different from a career perspective, diverse experiences from hobbies or pastimes or just other interests. Sometimes they are just part of us experiencing lots and lots of things because we're expansive enough and capable enough to do that. But when it comes down to sometimes we feel like we're experiencing many things, but we might actually not be. That's because there are parallel lives that are created through our choices, our dualistic conditions, or trialistic conditions, or quadralistic conditions. Those being, for instance, if we walk out of a building, we turn left instead of right, and we meet people going left that we wouldn't have met if we had gone right, for instance. Those create parallel conditions. So we split into 2, or 4, or 6, and then we split again, and we split again, and we split again. So we create all these new conditions, and therefore, when we are more spiritual, for instance, we do, as individuals, start to feel or know or experience on a sort of a higher level some of those lives, parallel lives, that we are going down because we've made a different choice, for instance, in the past. Noting, of course, there is no such thing as past or present or future. Okay, right. So, okay, that's good. Okay, it's good. Marnie's just said thanks. Seeing the patterns in our lives and looking back to the bigger picture is a helpful exercise. Good. This is the thing with karma, by the way. This looking back in our lives and to see the bigger picture, and what goes around comes around, as it were, is a very good way to see where your karmic links still are as well, which is interesting. Right, we've just talked about the life plans, but I've just also almost surreptitiously going into the parallel conditions as well. I was thinking, just having a quick think to see if there's anything else we need to talk about life plans, other than the fact that they're actually quite high level, by the way. We need to experience how to fly a plane. We need to experience how to scuba dive. We need to experience being a virtuoso violin player. We need to experience being a rich person. We need to experience being a pauper. We need to experience losing lots of people around us. We need to experience gaining lots of people around us. We need to experience being able to learn to drive a car. You know, all of these different things are there as part of the life plan, and we might want to experience them with somebody, or move from one person to another person, for instance, and experiencing the same things. And so all of these things are placed in. We've chosen and are placed in front of us by our guide, but more importantly, they're done by our helpers, because the guide is the manager, so to speak, of the helpers, and the guide itself may well be looking after a number of different incarnate souls. And so the helpers are specifically aligned to helping us, and they also work on the parallel conditions that we create to these dualistic, trialistic, quadralistic choices that we may have, or even sixfold choices we may have, or the possible opportunities for choice, or the possible possibilities for choice, or the possibility of possible possibilities of a choice, or the possibility of a possible possibility of a possible possibility of a choice. All of these things are very convoluted, but basically it is that anything that could be will be, and if it needs part of us to experience that, we'll experience this in a parallel condition. Chris has just asked, can an ego stop the life plan. No, ego can't stop the life plan. It can stop us from experiencing the life plan. And this is exactly what Marnie's just said. It doesn't stop the life plan itself. It stops us from experiencing the life plan. And so, as a result of that, it means that we could potentially, we can get into a loop. Well done, Marnie. Good. We can get into a loop where we're experiencing the same thing over and over again because we're not getting it. We're not understanding what the experience is for, and we're not responding in the right way. I've got particular personal examples, not from myself, but from family members I've got, where there's one of them is in a particular loop, and that loop is going down, and so we start to see this when the person doesn't experience the right set of learning from it, and then thinks they can continue to do what they're doing, and then the punishment, so to speak, the experience gets harsher or harder every time, and so it pulls them down. So parallel lives are a function of what we are. Because we have choices, or the possibility of choices, or the possible possibility of choices, or the possibility of possible possibilities of choices, we split out into these myriad different incarnations, albeit within the same space. So there's lots of different localized event space or parallel conditions, lots of different global versions, lots of different galactic versions, and lots of different physical universe-sized versions, depending upon how we are working with it ourselves and how we're working with it with others, and how we work with it in a global sense or a galactic sense or a universal sense. And so, in the parallel condition, we experience everything concurrently. So although we may look as if we are experiencing one life, one existence, one incarnation, there's myriad versions of ourselves experiencing other little fine details that this particular version of us missed out. I think somebody either asked me the question or it's in the next book, The End Dialogues. Somebody said, how do we know if this existence that we're in now is the primary existence? And the answer is we don't. And that's part of the beauty of it. How do we know that this existence is the primary existence? The answer is we don't. All we need to know is that we are in this particular version of what we are, and we should do the best we can with it, moving forwards in a very positive way. Okay, I think Mo's just about to ask a question, and I'll answer that before we move on to the questions that have been asked by Mo and by Ulla. Okay. But the thing to note is, though, that within all of these different myriad versions that are created in this event space, these parallel conditions, parallel localized conditions, or global conditions, or galactic conditions, or universal-sized conditions, the guide and the helpers work with each version of us. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Mo. That's why you get the feeling that you can almost feel the parallel life. Yes. Specifically, if you're more spiritually aware, you start to tap into those functions and functionalities that we have when we're higher frequency. And so we start to be able to break the barrier down between what we are as an immersed incarnate aspect or soul, and we start to move away and start to experience those other parts of ourselves who are also incarnate and immersed, but are experiencing the parallel condition that was on offer to us because we had a choice to make. But again, the guide and the helpers work with all these different various variations of us as they grow, as they fracturally grow, and when the evolutionary content comes to its evolutionary dead end, when they all collapse back down together again and eventually collapse down to the main life. Okay, so parallel lives are with us all the time. Some of us get mixed up with this and have psychological problems, which can be addressed if somebody of the right quality of healing training can work with them. That can be sorted out. But in general, most individuals on this planet and other lower frequency aspects of the physical universe don't understand that these are the other parts of themselves. There's other aspects of their aspects, so to speak, are in existence. Okay, but each of them is important because each of them deals with a piece of the minute detail that wasn't going to be dealt with by the one that made the choice to go left instead of right, for instance. Okay, well I hope that goes through that piece of subject matter quite nicely. Don't forget, you can always ask questions on this as a result of this Satsanga. If you can, it would be nice for you to put the questions on the forum, by the way. We've been working very hard in the background to get you all, or certainly all those people who've done the Traversing the Frequencies workshops, onto the forum, and certainly onto the TTF, which is a closed forum, so you can all talk to each other and discuss your experiences. But on the other forum, which is the Greater Reality, the one that Ula's looking after, if you can put your questions on there and start to work with that, that'll be fantastic. We can ask each other questions, and I'll answer in as shall I say, in as efficient a way as possible if those questions come through. And I always get the emails from the forum, so if you want to ask me a question via the forum, that's always seen by me. It may take a day or two to get to it and respond, but there will be a response there. And the most important thing with that is that not only you will see the response, but all the other people in Satsanga and all the other people who've signed up to the website will see it as well. So it's more important because it becomes more visible to more people rather than just the close-knit community we have here. Okay, right. I'm just going to look at the question that if I can find it. The question that Mo asked. I've got all of. I've got all the ones that. Ula sent there. There you go. Let's go into it. Right. So, interestingly enough, Mo asks, so each parallel universe has an aspect of us in it automatically. Yes. No, we don't choose. Or should I say, yes, we do choose. Every time there's an opportunity for a choice, we choose to be in both of those conditions, or 3 of those conditions, or 4 of those conditions, or 10 of those conditions, for instance. So we are in it automatically, and the choice to be in it automatically is there as a function of the opportunity for having the dualistic condition, the trialistic condition, the quadrastic condition. So I hope that answers the question, Mo. Very, very simple answer to that question, because we've been talking about parallel conditions as well. So we choose to be in it because we have the choice, and we choose a certain route. So we're in it automatically as a result of that choice. And we do, and as a result, we are in each one of them. It's just ask a question to each of you. Which one are you in? Which one are you in? Okay. Right. Right. So I'll take it. These are all part of the questions that Ula sending out now. So a quick check. Let's have a quick look. Right. Good. Okay. They are. So Ula's now putting the questions that she wrote in the email to me on the Skype IM system. Okay, and it said, in the history of God, you wrote, where there is energy, there is eventually consciousness, and there is life. But consciousness is not true life until it is aware. Consciousness is merely a form of intelligence and not sentience. That's right. Consciousness is a function, a downstream function of intelligence. In the Origin Speaks, there's a section in there which shows how energy goes from being pure energy to gaining its own self-awareness and sentience. I don't know if Marnie's got the book, but I can't remember because it's a long time ago now where that particular section is. I think it's close towards the end actually. So I think it's the last one of the last 2 or 3 or 4 chapters. But basically, consciousness is merely a form of intelligence. It's almost like recognising we're on the planet. It's not the ability to create per se, recognise what's been created, appreciate that creation, and modify the creation to be more effective or to be more efficient in respect of what the creation was there for. So energy will eventually, given time, there's no such thing as time, but given enough existence to become, shall we say, loosely aware of itself. It will then gain some rudimentary intelligence. It will then move around trying to seek other smaller pieces of energy that are at the same level of evolutionary growth as itself, and it will eventually become conscious of this desire. When it becomes conscious of this desire, it starts to become aware of itself. When it becomes aware of itself, it then goes on to being, shall I say, self-aware, and then it goes into a function 2 or 3 steps further on down, where it starts to create things, to experience things, to experiment, to want to experience different things, to know different things, to grow, and to progress. And all these things are a function of evolution, or should I say, evolution is a function of progression. And so when the energy becomes or gets to a certain level where it starts to work upon this ability to create and then modify the creation to improve its efficiency and its experience, it starts to become sentient. And it's quite a long way down the road. It's in the book of the history of the Origin Speaks. It's quite a long chapter on that, which is it's good. It's quite informative. I think. It's in the first 21 pages. Yeah, there's something else there as well, Marnie. It's further on down in another part of it as well. Yeah, I also talked about how the origin gained its own moment of awareness, which discusses this. I'll look it up. Okay. Yeah, put it on the forum, please do. There's about 20 to 21 points where an energy becomes from going from being just purely energy to becoming sentient, and that's later. Yeah, and the others are saying the questions about life, a living entity. Well, yeah, when the energy becomes sentient, it is a fully existing living entity, with independence from, although still part of, the energies that are its creator. Because we're all part of the origin. Although we're all part of the source, ultimately we're all part of the origin. And so we're all given individuality, because we've been given individuality by our creator. But in essence, there are energies out there that can become sentient in their own right, as a function of those energies not being used by the source or by the origin, and therefore they will become sentient as a function of the origin or the source, given enough time, so to speak. Right. So let's look at this question here. Question 1. What is your definition of life? What makes an entity a living entity from a higher frequency perspective? A living entity is an entity that is not only self-aware, but it's also sentient. However, we do have lower frequency astral entities, or entities that exist in the lower astral frequency. That's the 4th frequency from our perspective. The upper lower astral, which is the 5th, the lower upper astral, which is the 6th, and the upper astral, which is the 7th. And they are sort of living because these astral entities, they are energy that is starting to become sentient eventually. But they have intelligence, and they exist, and therefore you can classify them as a living entity. But they're not a sentient entity. They're not a fully aware entity. They're not conscious per se. They are simply intelligent. Okay. So, from the point of view of when an entity is a group of energies that's coalesced together under a single function, and to make that single function become something greater, that's the point at which those energies can be classified as an individual existing entity or living entity. Okay. Next bit is true life restricted to the physical universe where incarnation takes place? Yeah. From our perspective, or should I say from the perspective of an aspect of a true energetic self, incarnate existence is a function of the physical universe only. True life is part of our true energetic state. So incarnation doesn't mean this is true life. This is just a function of us experiencing something. This is like us buying a new car and getting in that car and driving it around for several thousand miles and then discarding it and getting a new car later. Okay. So our true existence is not what we're existing now as an incarnate being, although it is. It's part of it. It's not totally it, it's just a small part of it, small facet of it. Next question is, true life restricted to semi-sentient or sentient energies? Existence, I'm going to call it existence. True life is where we are sentient, in real terms. We're able to manipulate our environment and work with our environment and create things. And so, true life in every aspect would be restricted to sentient entities that are fully in control of themselves and their environment. This doesn't only apply to our source entity, by the way, or source entity one's multiverse. It is true for every part of the origin, every source entity that was created, and every one of those sentient beings that were created by the various different source entities that are part of the initial creation of our origin. Okay, so every particular creation that's created or given sentience experiences this true life, so to speak. Okay, good. Okay, let's look down here. Right, there's another part of it down here. Question from Ella. For example, I said the minerals are thoughts given form, not sentient, not alive, not ensouled, unlike plants. Animals are higher genre entities. Yeah. But the true energetic self of minerals are at the bottom of full dimension 2, below the true energetic self of plants, which are below the true energetic self of animals. So are minerals imbued by entities that are not alive, but are just learned to be conscious? If you were to follow the Dolores Cannon route of growth of an entity, then as an entity starts to become fully aware and sentient, it would be exposed to doing, shall I say, simple functions or tasks, like being a nebula, like sweeping together different energies, like experiencing being a mineral, for instance. But there are entities that are fully sentient, that exist in a fully mineral state, and their sentience moves around the energies associated with, or that, from our perspective, hold the atoms of that particular mineral together. And so it's not specifically true, I'm starting to understand, that a mineral is a lowly evolved entity. It can be a highly evolved entity, but the highly evolved entity may exist within the structure of that mineral. But there are true energetic cells that are really quite highly evolved who wish to put parts of themselves into these conditions, into the mineral condition, to experience that level of experience, of being slow, of being stuck in terms of its ability to move, experience things. But it's very, very rare. Generally, it's those entities that are still on the start of the evolution ladder, for instance. Do their true energetic cells also have to evolve through the entire multiverse? Yes. Every true energetic self that was created by the source in our particular multiversal environment has to experience all aspects of the multiversal environment, or the environments created by the multiversal environment itself. That means all the frequencies and all of those individualized universal states that are part of each of those different frequential levels, and the parallel conditions that are part of it, of course, as well. And so when we've gone through, moved through every frequency within every full dimension, that is when our own evolutionary cycle is over, and we can choose to recommune with Source then. Are these true energetic cells destined to be minerals in the next few evolutionary cycles too? No. We can choose to be anything we want to in the next evolutionary cycle. In fact, this, I'm told, is the third evolutionary cycle, and we've only recently started it in relative terms. The first two were very slow in terms of the speed at which we went through the evolutionary cycle. This is happening quite quickly, relatively speaking, because every aspect that's been projected into the multiversal environment, that is the source entity, in this particular location within the energies assigned to the source entities to work with by the origin, we're moving quite quickly. So it is, you know, quite a remarkable thing that we are moving as fast as we are. And so then they're not destined to be minerals in every evolutionary cycle. Although if they wanted to be, they could be. It's just that sometimes some of these things aren't necessary in terms of their need to be re-experienced. Although we can always re-experience everything in a completely different way every time. Okay, so Lily just asked a question. Artificial intelligence, where did that come from and how was AI created in the first place? Artificial intelligence is a product of our creativity. It's a product of the creativity of us as sentient beings. It's us learning how to be what we are, a function of God, an individualized unit of God. And so AI was always there. It's just that we needed to have certain individuals who would incarnate, who are linked into that possibility of bringing it into fruition into the physical universe. Okay, so it's part of our creativity to learn to create something which is intelligent from something that is not intelligent. That's part of our creativity. It's part of our evolutionary cycle. Okay, it's part of our commitment to helping our source evolve. Mose asked the question, so here's another question, what about fish? Lots of vegetarians eat fish. They do. And we all eat animals, or most of us eat animals in some way, shape or form. Even those vegetarians eat something which is evolving in some way, shape or form. But this is all part of the whole plan. We know intrinsically that some aspect of the source is given to us to allow the vehicle that we're working with to continue. Now, at some point we start to recognise that we are part of this bigger picture and that all of these other things are part of us as well. And so when we start to do that and we start to function in a higher frequency, we start to, shall I say, work with higher frequencies, use our chakras more efficiently, and therefore we don't need to eat food, to eat solid food, to eat fish, to eat vegetables, to eat animals. Okay. Let's have a look at this next question. I've got quite a few questions here. We're going to have to start to think about the meditation fairly soon. Let's ask Marnie's question. Lower vibration frequency mineral states. Yes. The minerals are a lower frequency aspect of existence within the physical universe. And they are probably, but not quite, the lowest frequential condition within our physical universe. Okay. Ulla said, in the next cycle, will the source keep us on the ball? So we're going to have backfill people or lower or a lower energetic genre, true energetic self. As I was reading this, I was getting a bit of information from the source on this, and in the book, The History of God, where we talk about, or on the source book 1, where we talk about the creation of the true energetic cells and the various different qualities of that related to the first evolutionary cycle, not this one. And so all the aspects that have been created are reused, if they want to be reused. And so when we finish an evolutionary cycle, when we recommune with Source, in a similar way that the aspect would recommune with our true energetic self after any particular incarnation has been experienced and that experience has been understood in its entirety, that being the life review, If it decides to go into full communion, then it'll become part of the source, and the total sentience will dissolve into it totally, becoming source rather than individualized sentience. But if a particular true energetic self decides it wants to stay individualized whilst being in communion, there's very different ways of doing that. And so the aspects that are there are reselected by source, and even those who seek dissolution can be reconstructed again by source if it feels a particular true energetic self is useful in experiencing a certain experience. Okay. Lily's just asked again the question about AI. Why is it called artificial? Because it's a human term. It's something mankind has created because it doesn't understand that actually intelligence is a function of existence, and it thinks that we, as the incarnate being, should say, immersed mankind thinks that it is intelligence, and therefore anything that is created is artificial. In actuality, if you go further up the tree, you could argue that we are artificial. The true energetic self is artificial intelligence, because it's created by the source. That's a thought process. All of you out there are artificial intelligences, me included. Okay, next question. Thank you, Mo, for saying well answered. I was given the answer there. I didn't actually answer it myself. Next question. In the Origin Speaks, you said that Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection was mass illusion, as was the story about Jesus feeding the crowd with bread and fish. Are these illusions like holographic inserts or thoughts inserted into the subconscious mind by flashing them before your eyes or ears, getting people to believe them and therefore to create them in the mind? Could the same mind control technology be used by dark entities to control masses with false propaganda? Are there examples of mass illusions in our recent history, e.g. events such as 9/11 and the mysterious disappearance of some airplanes, for example? What happened with the Jesus crucifixion was that the disciples, the 24 of them, not just the 12 that have been recorded, the 12 males, there was 12 female as well, because we live in a dualistic condition, so there needed to be male and female. So there was 12 full disciples, a full disciple being a male and female partnership. Okay, so there was 24 there, 12 full disciples, a full disciple is a male and female partnership. And they were very adept by the time they'd finished working with Jesus in all ways, in all of the different meditative and yogic, we would call them now, skill sets that would allow them to control the environment that surround themselves. And so they were able to create the illusion of a crucifixion by feeding upon the desires of the crowd and amplifying those desires so that they saw what they wanted to see. So in actual fact, they were easily hypnotized, if you want to call it that. They were easily controlled because they wanted to see a crucifixion, so therefore they got it. When in reality there was something else going on in the background, which was the release of Jesus and his escape. Those individuals who weren't part of the illusion saw Jesus walking down the road, hence the thought process that some people saw him be resurrected, for instance. And of course there was no body to put into the tomb because he never died, so he never actually went into the tomb. And so all these different things become miracles if you don't understand what the function was that created in the first place. Dark entities. There are dark entities, if you want to call them that, or low frequency entities. The Illuminati are one of those groups of shall we say, sentient beings who get attracted to various different functions of being in power, being in physical power. And they can and do control masses of individuals, for instance, to be able to do certain things. When we see masses of individuals do bizarre behaviour patterns that the individuals themselves would never do, that's when either a collective symbiotic function creates that through a common desire. So they self-hypnotise, for instance. Or that common desire is utilised and adulterated by others who can access the functions that allow that desire to become manifest in the mind or the subconscious of those incarnate beings to desire in the first place. So be careful what your desires are. If they're part of a mass function, then you stand the opportunity of being manipulated by those who want to manipulate you. Some marketing techniques use this. They make us feel inadequate if we don't have certain clothes or certain material belongings, for instance. And that's how that works these days. And are there examples of mass illusions in our recent history? Again, 9/11, mysterious disappearance of airplanes, etc. I'm told there are. There's lots of them, but it's difficult for me to pinpoint which particular one is of relevance. Let's have a look. See if I can see one that's there. Okay, I'm being drawn. Okay, so this is interesting. I'm being drawn to an image that's come from the Second World War. It's a very famous photograph, by the way, of a group of GIs pushing a flag up onto a hill, indicating that the American forces had won part of a battle and had reclaimed some land. And apparently, there was the photographer who took that was never found. And there's all sorts of different people who are claiming that it was their photograph. And in actuality, that particular image was created as a function of a collective desire to succeed in a battle. Most theories are saying the moon landing. The moon landing actually happened, I'm told. Again, okay, so lots of conjecture about the moon landings weren't real. My understanding is they were real. They were totally real, and it was all by the seat of the pants. And there's nothing in my mind that suggests that it's like the Capricorn 1 film, where it was all you know, on a film set and all that sort of stuff. In terms of these mass illusions, we can create them ourselves through a group desire, okay, going into a synergetic condition, or again, groups of individuals who work together to try and control the environment can do it. And there's many, shall I say, functions within the earth that do that. I mean, yeah, you can see it in politics, you can see it in other things. There are families, there's a small number of individuals who control the physicality of Earth, and they use this ability in various different ways to control the masses. Whereas, but there's a small number of individuals who don't subscribe to the things that they are being fed, so to speak. Just trying to think of another way of explaining it. Conspiracy theorists are also controlled. And so we have to be careful when we go into conspiracy theory, because that's also a function of trying to control us. Disinformation is another way of controlling us. So it's all part of this, all part of the ability to control us by giving us something that we all want to know, that we all work with. Okay. Yeah. Everything is an illusion, because actually everything is only a parallel condition to something else. Okay, just going to look at, I think Morella's just about to do one question. I'm going to answer that, and then we need to go into the meditation. Okay, which should take 10 to 15 minutes, because it's going over the previous one we had about healing self. Is the CERN collider part of it, manipulation of time and space? Time and space doesn't exist as such, although we can say space exists because space is everywhere, in all these different parallel conditions and frequential states. But the one thing, the way to get the information that the CERN, the Large Hadron Collider, is creating is incorrect. But because scientists have gone in a certain direction, they're under the illusion that this particular direction is the way to find out information. For instance, the God particle and other things. I mean, you only have to look around you and see that God's everywhere. The source is everywhere. Every part of what is in existence is part of the source or God. There was two individuals, I can't remember the person's name now. The first one was Ledbetter, and they were a couple of the other person, I can't remember the name now, but these two individuals were Western yogis, and they managed to be taught how to go into the depth of the physical building blocks that maintain the structure of the physical universe. And they went right down to the very basic components, and they called it the Anu. Besant and Ledbetter, that's right, thank you, Marnie and Ulla, yeah, Besant and Ledbetter. They discovered through their meditation the Anu. And those of you who've got Cosmos, have a look inside the Cosmos book, because you'll see that my own late father-in-law, Dennis Milner, managed to extract images of the Anu via using his electroplate photographic technology and a homeopathic solution. So it's there, and that is, hopefully that's that question. Okay. So really, the question is, the illusions part of CERN is that they need to have big technology to crack a walnut, but you don't. You just need to have the right understanding of how to crack the walnut. Oh, yeah. Okay. Annie Besant and C.W. Ledbetter, yeah. Okay. Oh yes, and Marnie's saying, yes, rereadings alongside the Origin Speaks, they're good to read together. Good. The Cosmos book is actually, I feel, going to be a very important book in the future. It's there now, but it's a little bit ahead of its time in terms of a scientific understanding of the physical universe. Right, I'm now going to start the meditation we were going to do. Just going to fit just very. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yes. So you consider using a documentary? I might do. Remind me later, Riley. There's all sorts of things we can do. Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah. Okay. Right. So that, I hope, goes through the questions that Mo asked and Ulla's asked, and you've all asked as part of those questions, and there's been lots of nice offshoots and nice expansive growth from that. And we've talked about parallel lives and the life plan as well. And in June we did meditation where we looked at ourselves to try and find dysfunction or disharmony or illness within ourselves. Okay. So I'm going to go through that particular meditation again. It might change a bit in terms of its delivery and content, but in essence the thought process is the same, and the way that you would do it will be the same. My words might change because of it's been a few months since I've done this. Okay. So in your normal sort of meditative state, if you want to sit in your straight backed chair, okay, with your feet flat on the ground and your arms, palms uppermost on your thighs, just where the thighs meet the lower body, back straight, eyes closed, and your closed eye vision focused on the origin of the third eye, which is in between the two eyebrows and above the bridge of the nose. Okay. And what we're going to do is use our mentally spoken words or our visualization process to see in front of us a large facsimile of ourselves, so a large model of ourselves. So if you want to, you can imagine yourself being in front of a mirror, okay? And this mirror shows a large version of yourself. Okay. or you can just imagine a great big statue of yourself. Okay. Right. Now I want you to think that behind you is the lift that we use in the Traversing the Frequencies workshops, specifically to go from levels 12 up to 14, or should I say when we started to do the end of level 2 and level 3, before we start to work without the lift, that the lift is behind us on this 0 level. Okay. Now we don't need any grounding because we're not going to go too high. You're going to stay within the energies associated with our human form. So we can walk into this lift, or walk backwards into the lift, so we can still see this large statue of ourselves in front of us. And I want you to press the button that's got the number 10 on it. And so our lift moves up the frequencies. And as you move up the frequencies, it stays in place where it is. But as it moves up the frequencies, a different version of us is presented to us in front of us. So we see the etheric body, and then the emotional layer, and then the next level, and the next level, and the next level. And so when we get to the 7th level, we get to the catharic template, okay, or the catharic body. We've got to the point where we are seeing a aspect of us, an energetic aspect of us that helps to create the physical form that we can see. In fact, it helps to create the spiritual physical aspect of what we are. But let's go further. Let's go to level 8, and then 9 and 10, which don't exist in terms of form. They exist only in energy. They're a step-down function that allows the aspect that's projected from the true energetic self to enter into the incarnate state, whilst still being in connectivity with the true energetic self. Okay? It allows this to happen. So let's just look at those energies swirling around on the 10th level. There should be nothing that comes to mind. There should be nothing that is lower frequency. It should all be 10th level frequency. This is normal. Okay. So let's move down to the 9th level, and we should see a different set of energies, or experience a different set of energies. And again, it should be coherent. It should be homogeneous. There should be no change to energy. Again, it has nothing to do with the physical aspect, or the spiritual physical aspect, other than being a medium to allow our aspect to be projected through, to allow the connectivity of the aspect with the spiritual physical form. Okay, now we can come down to the 8th by pressing the 8th, the button with the number 8 on it. And again, it should be the same. There will be different set of frequencies, different set of energies, and it will still be homogeneous. It will still be one frequency. Now I want you to press the button with the number 7 on it, and we come down to the 7th level. This is the high-end aspect of what we are. This is the top of the spiritual physical energies associated with the human form. It's also the high associated with the upper astral, if you want to use that terminology. Okay. Take a look at yourself. Imagine that the statue of your body in front of you is like a glass vessel. Now, if the glass vessel is working right, then it should be clear. If you see any energies there, any dark clouds, and they can be from almost invisible to white to grey to black, and the various different shades in between. If you see any of these clouds there, because these are the start of physical dysfunction. These are the high-level thought processes that create the gross physical illnesses, viruses, diseases later. So I want you to visualize or use your mentally spoken words to create a comb or a filter or a riddle, the sort of thing we use in the garden to sort out the lumps of earth that are bigger from the small lumps of the earth. Okay. Think of it as a comb though, that's just as easy. And where these slightly denser energies are, that are part of this 7th level, I want you to put this comb through it, or this filter through it. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, as many times as you feel is necessary to smooth out that localized area of low frequency. Even though it's higher frequency, 7th level frequency, it'll be at the lower end of that. And these are associated with disharmonious thoughts. When you feel that you've smoothed it all out and all you can see is a clear version of yourself in front of you, a clear statue of yourself in front of you, then move down to the 6th level. And what you'll find is anything that's on the 7th level will be amplified on the 6th. Because as we come down these different levels, they start to become manifest. Start to become closer and closer and closer to physical manifestation. So if you see anything on the 7th, look at where it is on the 6th. It'll be in the same place. So again, use your comb or your filter or your gardener's riddle and smooth out the energy. Think of it like your hair that's been knotted and you're combing your hair so that your hair is nice and straight. And the straightness of the hair represents the smoothing out of these energies so that they're all homogeneous. They're all homogeneous on this level, and therefore there's no differentiation between lower frequency and the base frequential state of that particular level. So again, use your filter or your riddle or your comb to comb through it until it becomes clear again on that particular level. Ideally, of course, on the 6th and 7th levels we shouldn't see anything. Okay? It's usually a function of disharmonious thoughts that create physicality. So if we've got something we're seeing on this level, then we need to do some further investigation to work out what's causing these thought processes and the disharmonious energies associated with them. Again, so once we've smoothed out these energies and it's become clear, we can push the button with number 5 on and we become exposed to the energies associated with our 5th frequency. Those parts of us that are based on the 5th frequency. These are the energies associated with the upper, lower astral. If you want to call them that. And so smooth out using your comb or your filter. Okay. Smooth out the energies, looking in the same place that you found these energies, these lower frequency clouds on the 6th and 7th. Look in the same place on the 5th, but you might start to see other areas where there's lower frequency clouds manifest in other parts of the body, those that aren't visible on the 6th and 7th. So as you see additional energy, additional lower frequency energy then again comb that out as well, or use your filter to filter it out. So again, when you're finished, all the energies on the 5th level are homogeneous, and you get this clear impression. Okay, when you've done that, you can move down to the 4th level by pushing the 4th level of the button on your lift, and you'll be exposed to the energetic body that's associated with you on the 4th level. And again, look for those clouds that you found in the areas in the 5th, 6th and 7th, and any other clouds that start to appear. Okay, this is the lower astral levels, the 4th frequency. It is the energetic level that's just above the highest gross physical frequency associated with the human form. So this is the last of the areas where we may or may not see physical manifestation of a particular disharmonious condition. So it may well be that there's things that have happened on this level that haven't manifest on the lower levels yet. And that's certainly the same with the 6th and 7th levels, although you may see things on the 6th and 7th levels that aren't manifest on the 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd and 1st. So I haven't got down there yet. So you may well find that the clouds that you saw on the 6th and 7th levels don't exist on the 5th and 4th and 3rd and 2nd and 1st. Whereas other aspects of cloud do exist on those levels. And you might find that some clouds start to manifest themselves on the 5th or 4th downwards. Excuse me. So having done that, you can move down to the 3rd level now, having made sure that you've smoothed out the energies and the image in front of you becomes clear, crystal clear. You can move down to the 3rd level. In this level, this is the highest energetic state associated with the gross physical. So what we're starting to see now is the start of physical dysfunction, the start of heart disease, the start of cancers, the start of viruses, start of long-term illnesses. So any energies you see here, again, you can smooth out using your filter or your comb or your gardener's riddle. It's got finer and finer things attached to it. Now when you do this at home, if you want to, you can work backwards. You can go from the level 1 up to level 7. So you can go 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4 and then 5 and then 6 and then 7. And as you go up, you can use a comb or a filter, or this gardener's riddle that's got a finer combing aspect or a finer filter aspect the higher you go. So that particular way, you are using a coarser filter and then working with a less coarse filter, a less coarse filter, a more fine filter, a much finer filter, and then a completely fine filter. So if you're working backwards, it's dealing with it in a different way. In fact, you can deal with it much faster in that way than we are now. We're dealing with each particular aspect from the top down, seeing how things in the top energetic levels can affect those in the lower energetic levels, or those that manifest on those higher levels create gross physical manifestation on lower levels. Okay, so again with your filter, your comb out on any clouds you're seeing in this aspect of yourself, this large statue of yourself, this large clear statue of yourself. When you've removed the clouds and it becomes totally crystal clear, you can again push your button and lift to get down to the 2nd level and do exactly the same thing again. Again, noting that if you see additional clouds to what you've experienced in the previous levels, then this is additional, or should I say, more robustly manifest dis-eases or dysfunctions. These areas now are the manifestation, the gross physical manifestation of disease, initially created by dysfunctional thought processes, desires, intentions, thoughts and actions. And again, use your filter or your comb to comb through it, and when you get to the stage where the image in front of you, this clear statue of yourself, with yourself in the mirror, becomes totally clear, you know that you've now addressed that particular physical dis-ease or dysfunction. And then finally you can go down to the first level, okay, which is the etheric template. You do the same thing with your filter, or your gardener's riddle, or your comb, and you again comb out these thick clouds, these dense clouds, these darker clouds. You'll probably find that any clouds that you saw in the high levels that were white or almost transparent, if they have followed the way all the way down, they'll be very, very dark now in those same areas. So if you found something in your right shoulder on the 7th level that was almost discernible, you might find it very, very thick and dark again on the right shoulder on the 1st level. So again, comb it out, removing the collection of those lower frequencies together and allowing the energies to be homogeneous at this 1st level. When you've done that and the image in front of you is clear, you get a crystal clear image of yourself, either as a statue or as a reflection in the mirror in front of you. You can push the button with the number 01, and the lift will come down to the 0 level, and you can walk out, knowing that any physical dysfunction, disease, virus, illness or ailment will have been removed from your energies, and your physicality will start to behave in a way that is consistent with the total removal of the energies associated with the physical ailment from all the different levels associated with the gross physical and spiritual physical aspects of the human form. Okay, so when you're ready, you can come back into the room that you're in, open your eyes, take a drink of water, and just remember this will be probably the last 15 minutes of this particular recording, and use it with pleasure at your own will, whenever you want to. You can use it going up the frequencies rather than coming down, as we've just done. It is particularly useful, and I use it quite a lot in healing people. So it's particularly useful and is very, very good. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. That's the end of today's Satsanga. I will, of course, put the recording on the website and send you the links to it. I shall do that right now. And it's good to see you all together again, and thank you for all being here. So thank you to John, and to Mo, and to Marnie, and to Chris, and to Lily, and to Yvonne, and to Adriana, and to Ola, and to Mirella. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all, and we'll see you on the 19th of September, because after that I'll be away for nearly a month. Okay. So namaste to everybody, and God's love to you all. Good evening, good night, and good morning.
Did you see the aliens in Crete?